Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. Hope you guys enjoyed that intro that I just showed you, which is shot entirely on what we're going to be talking about today, which is the Sony A7S III. Now, before we get started on this video, I just want to say that by no means is this video going to be entirely about the specs of the A7S III or anything like that. So if you are interested in something like that, I would just highly recommend clicking off of this video and going onto Jared Undone or something like that. But yeah, if you are still here, let's get into it. First reason why I bought the A7S III was because I wanted something light and compact that I could just throw in my camera bag and just get out the door with. And so far it's been exactly that. It's so small. Throw on a small rig cage so I can mount stuff onto it, and yeah, it's worked perfect so far. The second and main reason why I got this camera was because the low light capabilities. Now, this camera shoots at a native ISO at 640 and a native ISO at 12,800, which is like absolutely insane. And before I actually got this camera, I used to shoot on a 5D Mark IV, which is recording me right now, and I used to be scared of shooting it at 3200 ISO because it would just fall apart and become super noisy. But now I don't have to worry about that because this camera can just absolutely make it seem like you have light when there really isn't light. And so I'll throw up some video of some actual low light test footage that I've done at 20,000 ISO, and it actually looks pretty decent still. So this camera, beast in low light. The picture profile that I shoot on for this camera is at the S-Log3, S-Gamma 3 PP8 profile on the Sony camera. Now when grading something like that, I would highly recommend finding a really good conversion LUT to take that log footage to Rec 7 to 9. So a good conversion LUT that I use is the Danny Gevirtz LUT. It works really well, and I've been using it to color almost all of my videos. But recently I've actually been using a LUT that I made myself, which is a little less intense, but it's basically just a conversion LUT, like a crappy conversion LUT off Final Cut Pro that I tweaked a little bit. It allows me to go ahead in post and kind of dial in that look that I want in the frame that I have. So yeah, so the reason why I chose to go with the Sony A7S III instead of the FX3 was because I didn't want to spend $600 on just a top handle with XLR imports along with tally lights, because I knew that going into my purchase I was going to use this camera as my main A cam going forward, and having tally lights just really wasn't a big deal to me because I would know when I'm recording and when I'm not recording. And I also knew that I wasn't going to use the XLR imports as much as I would use a regular mic jack. So what I did end up doing was I bought the A7S III, invested that extra $600 into a cage, a top handle, side handle, and a better mic, which I'm using right now. And yeah, well, also saving some cash. So I personally feel like I made the right decision because I have no regrets on my purchase with the A7S III over the FX3. Now, this has a lot to do with personal preference and personal needs. So if your needs call for the FX3, 100% spend the money, go for the FX3. So the SD card that I use is a normal SD card from, let's see here. The SD card that I use is a normal SanDisk Extreme Pro V30 card. V30? He's a V30? But I just use a V30 card. Shoots pretty much all that I need, the XAVCS format, 24 frames per second and the 60 frames per second, which is pretty much what I need right now for what I'm shooting. But if you want that 4K 120 frames per second along with it, the all intra format of shooting, you're gonna want to get the Sony Tough cards or a V90 SD card, which is both pretty expensive and up there in price. So for me, I think I'm just gonna stick with the SD card and just keep doing what I'm doing and work on what I need to work on the most. But yeah, SD cards, not a real big deal unless you're really going for that highest quality footage along with the 4K 120 frames per second. Now, having the Sony A7S III, one thing that I've loved about it so far is the amount of buttons that are on this camera. So with these customizable buttons that I've made out and to my needs, I have actual like 3 record buttons and other buttons for other functions in the camera that are not there. And yeah, Sony allows you to customize your camera to your needs and personal preferences. It works really well in my opinion. So that's one big plus to the camera that I've noticed. So one thing I actually thought about before buying this camera was if this camera could stand where I live on Maui, here in Hawaii, where sun is beaming down on some days and rain could be just pouring down on you other days. So from using this camera in the rain and in the sun all day, it's still held up for me. Haven't had no overheating issues, hasn't broken on me in the rain. So if you're looking for a reliable camera, I think this camera is a great option for you to think about, because I can tell you right now that I have not babied this camera while using it. So reliable, small, compact, light, shoots super good quality video. But that being said, moving on to the things that I don't like about this camera, which is like super nitpicky and just like it's not necessary at all. Number one being the flip out screen. Now this thing is pretty darn small and it's not bright at all. But obviously if you actually are serious into doing video stuff, you would already have an external monitor, or you'll be looking into buying an external monitor. Now with that monitor, you barely would even need this screen anyway. So having that on the list of things that I don't like is just not a big deal at all. Now the second thing that I don't like about this camera, but it's not a big deal again, is you need a Sony Tough Card to shoot in the highest quality format along with the 4K 120 frames per second. But yeah, it's not something that you technically need to operate the camera itself. You can still get super high quality footage. You can still get super high quality footage on top of this camera with using a normal SD card, shooting on the XAVCS format. And yeah, now the last thing I want to mention about this is that the image can be a little sharp at times, but it is fixable in camera by going into a detail section in the menu and dropping that down to -3. Now I myself don't really mess around with that thing, but I have heard some complaints from some of my friends that have used the camera, and yeah, to me it's not a big deal. I personally just deal with it. I don't even see a difference honestly. But yeah, for you, if you care about that kind of thing, it might be something you might want to look at. I don't know. But yeah, that is my thoughts on the Sony A7S III. It's honestly a super great camera. If you are thinking about buying this camera and it fits your needs, I don't see a reason why not to invest in this camera, because I think it's pretty darn good. But if you have any questions or comments, leave it down in the comment section below. I do answer all the comments, and if you want, you can even DM me on Instagram where I answer everyone as well. So yeah, see you next week. Bye.